Welcome back. So this is video number 3. What I have ready here is the cover. I wanted to explain to you, in the last video I'd mentioned sewing this by hand, but I think I ended up sewing. I'm going to sew it on the outside. It's layers. So to put this together, you have your right side spacing on this one and your backing. And then sandwiched in the center is going to be whatever fabric you want to use for the pocket. So it's going to look like this inside out, because this is how this looked, right? Let me just show you. See the material when you sew it. See? This is how it looks. Of course, all the little edging bits I had cut off, like this ended up sticking out, right? The little edges. So that all gets thrown away. But you have right side, and then your sandwiched is your whatever you want to use for the pocket. And I sewed the 3 sides and then cut everything off, little snip the corners, and this gets turned inside out then. And then, as you can see here, I sewed all the way around the edges. See here? This is how it looks here now. This gets turned inside out then, and then you can see there's your cover. Now this, get the corners all out nicely. And these are going to be your snaps. Whoops. I had it all pinned, but I couldn't turn it inside out with the pins there. So the pins will go back in here. And then I will sew all the way around here. So it'll look like this. See it? I even go over here because after I'm finished sewing around the edges, I sew a little bit inside here so that I have a pocket. See this little spot here? So this is a little pocket because I cut the fabric that goes in there so that I have this excess, and then it snaps. So once I've sewn around it, then I have 2 little pieces here, and I'm going to sew here. I'm going to sew this onto there by hand, and then I try and make sure I don't sew my pocket shut, and I'll sew that on there. And then all you have to do is pull, make a sewing line here to have a little pocket, and then this comes over and you'll put your snaps on and decorate however you like. And I'll show you one that I've got to that point. This one here, see, I have my scissors are going to go in there. I'm just getting ready to sew the pages in, and this is going to hold my needle threader. So what happens here, I'll just show you here. This is going to be my thread to sew my pages in. But this is how this looks when you're done. There's the little pocket for a pencil or whatever you like. I I sewed the snaps on and made sure I didn't sew the pocket, but I put a little crocheted heart on here so that you didn't see the back of this. I found I needed to go through all these fabrics to make this a sturdy snap. If I only went through this piece, it was kind of flimsy, and I was afraid it was going to rip the material. So I sewed it right through on this one. And you see the other part of the snap is here. I didn't sew through that pocket. And the material here only goes over as far as where I sewed. And then I will hand sew it in. So it's a couple of pieces. Actually, it's upside down there. This side here, I just put a little bit of ribbon through here. And this was a table runner. I made one of these little, this one I made first. It was too small. So I put the pieces of the table runner, I doubled it, and right sides facing, and made a heart shape out of it. I just used a little piece of paper. Where's my paper here? Trying to cover my messy desk here. I just used a couple. I just cut a heart shape in. And that's how I used it for this one. And then I found this one was too big, so I cut a smaller one. And this one fit better. It actually come out a little wonky on here, but... So, once I turned it inside, I didn't have a... I had to snip the back to turn it inside out. So I made a little patch for it, because you won't see that. You don't see that little patch I made on here because the scissors go in there. And the scissors, I just put the ribbon so that when the scissors go in, I'll put my ribbon up through and tie a bow on the front. But I leave it off while I'm sewing in this signature. And then I just did blanket stitch around the edges, and these are wool felt pieces. And then this, I'm going to put a ribbon through this one, because you won't see it on the back, because there's two different fabrics there. And then I'll put my needle threader on it. And that's it. That'll be done.